So if you open create DB, you'll see that it's quite a simple module. It just has a few methods. It creates one object, and then it runs mongo run, calls that command, and then it does another command called mongo2. So it's really a simple module, basically our driver for this first example. So all it's going to do is create the Mongo data, an object called Mongo, and then Mongo run is our first method that's going to be used, and then the Mongo2. And you can see what these methods do in the comments provided. So basically one of the first collection, and then one of the second collection input. So there's two collections that are going to be going into Mongo. So we can now go to run Mongo, which is the library that's called here, run Mongo. So that's where Mongo class is located. So we can see the Mongo class. And you can see in this class that there's some input that's going to go in. So that includes things like authors, text, images that are referenced. So all that data is in there. And then what we're going to do is launch some methods in that. So there's a method called getDatabase, which basically creates the Mongo database, a Mongo client as it's called. And then it creates a database called the test database. So if it's not already created, it will create it in the client, and it'll return that database. So we'll be working with a database called test database. So Mongo likes to organize databases in collections. That's the way it works, kind of similar to our tables that we did in SQL. So when we get the database, as you see here in the method, we're going to do something called posts. So posts is a collection. Again, you can create these things at any name you want, just like test database. So we'll get a database, and then we're going to get a collection. And if the collection doesn't exist, it should hopefully exist or be created. And then from there, we can go ahead and input data. Now, to make all this code actually work, we're going to have to do something else, and I'll explain that in a moment. But just to go through this file real quick, I'm going to finish it off to explain what's going on. So we effectively get the database, we create something called posts, and then we're going to run through a set of images and get those images. And you can see we're going to do something called read image, which should be a method somewhere in here. So read images down here. Basically all it does is read an image, similar to how we've seen that before. So it's going to read the image and get the binary data, and effectively create that binary data, get authors, get the text, and then input all that information into what's called a post. And this is just basically nothing more than a dictionary I've called post. And then that'll be then inserted into the database. So posts insert 1. So actually it goes to the collection, and then it'll insert by ID, so that way we keep a unique ID for the insertion of the data. It's just a way to reference it. And then we can effectively just return it as is. We don't have to do this post ID, but it's just on there anyways. So that basically what that does is insert the post into the collection, or I should say that inserts a dictionary called post into a collection called posts. Okay, and then if you look at the next method that's actually called mongo2, it does a similar thing with texts. So in this case, it ensures that the specific data can be organized. This should so it sets the text to be alphabetical, basically to be unique in terms of their insertion of data. So you can inform the specific collection to be both ascending, alphabetically organized, based on author. So it should organize anything called author in an alphabetical way from ascending. So that's A, B, C, D, and down. So it's unique is true, meaning that there should only be one collection with that name, and then drop duplicates, so we get rid of any duplicate insertions. So that's set as true. And then again, we range through the data, and then we input the data, just similar to as we did before. So we enter the authors, the text, tags that we sort of incorporate here, or just sort of hard code as just more tags, information, data information. So some textual, basically some data here that we're inserting. And similar to before, we insert that data, insert 1, as a post into something called text. So again, post is something that we create, but texts is also a collection we create that goes into the database that we've created. So that's all that basically does. So if we go back to create DB, we'll see we've done Mongo run and Mongo2, and that's all these things should basically do.